Algebra II 3.7e, lines are parallel, perpendicular, the same line, or neither. This is the last video in our parallel perpendicular line lesson. If you haven't seen the previous videos for 3.7a, b, c, or d, you can click on this video's description and go right to them. We can use the rules we've learned to determine if lines or the equations of lines are parallel to each other, perpendicular to each other, are the same line, or maybe none of these. Parallel lines are going to have the same slope but different y-intercept b when they're in slope-intercept form. Perpendicular lines, the slopes are going to equal a -1 when we multiply them together. If it's the same line, it's going to have the same slope and same y-intercept b, or it might be none of these. It might be neither. So let's take a look at our first two equations. The first equation is already in slope-intercept form, but the second one needs to be put into that form. So we need to distribute that 3 to the 2x plus 1. That's going to give us 6x plus 3. The same slope, but they have different y-intercept b, so they're parallel. They both have a 6 for a slope, but their b value is different. They're parallel. Let's take a look at these two. They need to be solved for y for the first one and put into slope-intercept form for the second one. So we solve this one for y, and we add a -6x to each side of the equation. That's going to create a 0 pair here and eliminate it. Now we have 2y equals -6x plus 8. We can divide each of these terms by this coefficient 2, and that will make this become a positive 1y equals a -3x plus a 4 for this equation. For this one, we just need to rearrange this side, and we get a -3x plus 4 on this side. Now they're both in slope-intercept form, and they're the same equation. So the equations are of the same line. See? The line would be, this line would be on top of this line, or vice versa. They would be graphed in exactly the same spot on the graph. All right? Let's take a look at this one. They're already both in slope-intercept form. If we take this slope and we multiply them together, we get a 2 over 1 times a -1/2. That gives us a -2 over 2, which equals -1. The product of the slopes equal a -1, so these are perpendicular. When we multiply the given slope, the first one, by the perpendicular slope, and it should equal a -1. Then we know they're perpendicular, okay? And if they're perpendicular, this slope is going to be the negative reciprocal of that one, see? Let's look at this one. We've got 5x minus y equals 1, and x minus 5y equals a -10. We need to solve for y and put them in slope-intercept form. So for this first one, we're going to add a -5x to each side of the equation. That's going to eliminate this and make a 0 pair. Now we've got our buddy, the invisible 1 here, don't we? Remember, whenever there's no coefficient, there's really a 1 there. Well, that's going to help us when we divide each term here. So we could divide each term by that -1. That's going to give us a positive y here equals, two negatives make a positive. We have a positive 5 slope, and the positive and negative make a negative. So we have y equals 5x minus 1. On this side, we can add this -x to each side of the equation to create a 0 pair here, because we want to isolate the y, get it into slope-intercept form. So now this is eliminated. We've got 5y equals a -x minus 10. We can divide each term by that -5 coefficient. That makes a positive 1y equals, now remember there's a 1 here. If there's no coefficient, there's really a 1. And that's going to help us to make a positive 1/5. See, because we have two negatives. And this is going to be a positive 2. So now our two equations are y equals 5x minus 1 and y equals 1/5 x plus 2. The slope of this one is a 5. The slope of this one is a 1/5. If we multiply them together, we get a positive 1. Their product doesn't equal a -1. So they're not perpendicular. Are they parallel? Do they have the same slope but different y-intercept b? No, they don't have the same slope. So they're not parallel either. Are they the same line? No, because the equations aren't the same. So these are neither. These equations fit neither of the criteria for the parallel, perpendicular, or same lines. Okay? Our next video is 3.8a, and we're going to discuss linear functions and data points. I'm going to add this video to the Algebra 2 playlist, and that link will be in this video's description. And also the playlist for Chapter 7, Graphs and Linear Equations from Algebra 1. All right? So if you're really confused, you can go back to Algebra 1 and see what we did there. Because a lot of my Algebra 1 stuff touched on Algebra 2 stuff. Okay? All right. I'll see you in the next unit. Bye.